The story of Saint Camillus de Lellis, patron of the sick, nurses, and hospitals. In the rugged mountains of Bucchianico, Italy, in the year 1550, a boy named Camillus de Lellis was born into a noble but troubled household. His mother, a devout Christian, prayed he would serve the church. At 17, he joined the Venetian army and quickly developed a love for gambling and fighting. His father, however, was a soldier, often away at war, and Camillus soon followed in his footsteps, not toward the church, but the battlefield. This injury would plague him for the rest of his life and become both a physical and spiritual turning point. But his undisciplined behavior led to his dismissal. He wandered aimless and hurting until one day he had a deep, soul-wrenching conversion. He returned to the hospital not just as a patient or laborer, but as a changed man. He died on July 14, 1614, in Rome. His life was one of transformation from soldier to gambler to servant of God, and his legacy lives on in hospitals and care centers around the world. From a young age, Camillus was headstrong, impulsive, and driven by a thirst for adventure. During one of his campaigns, Camillus developed a serious wound on his leg that never properly healed. Inspired by the compassion of Christ, he gathered a group of men who shared his mission. They not only cared for patients' physical needs, but also comforted their souls, treating them with dignity and love. Camillus and his companions became known as the servants of the sick. Broke and desperate, Camillus found work as a laborer at the hospital of San Giacomo in Rome. At the age of 32, he decided to dedicate himself completely to serving the sick. To deepen his mission, Camillus studied for the priesthood and was ordained in 1584. With papal approval, his group became a religious order, the Ministers of the Sick, known today as the Camillians, identified by the red cross they wore on their black cassexa symbol that later influenced modern medical insignia. When plague swept through Rome, they stayed behind to care for the dying Camillus, and his brothers were fearless. When battlefields were soaked in blood, they rushed to tend to soldiers, risking their own lives. He believed that the sick were the image of Christ and should be served with the utmost respect and love. For over 40 years, Saint Camillus bore his own suffering quietly, even as he healed others. Saint Camillus was canonized in 1746 and named the patron saint of the sick, nurses, and hospitals.